Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim wa salatu wa salam ala Rasulillah al-Kareem. Alhamdulillah, and welcome back to another episode of Life's Adornments, where we are discussing child rearing, its virtues, its benefits, its many ups and downs, and how do we return this magnificent endeavor back to the Quran and the Sunnah of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. We're talking today about akhlaq and tarbiyah. How do we raise children that are in line with the Sunnah of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam in terms of their mannerisms, in terms of their way of being, so that they may grow into adults that are healthy adults and have good manners, inshallah ta'ala. To help us with this matter, we have Sheikh Assim al-Hakeem, who is a teacher at Zad Academy and KIU, and an imam and teacher for over 30 years. MashaAllah, tabarakallah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah, Sheikh.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Okay, so we always enjoy having you, mashallah.
Jazakallah khair, the pleasure is all mine.
Alhamdulillah. So we left off talking about tarbiyah, talking about akhlaq. We talked about adab with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and adab with the parents. Now, the closest thing, as we mentioned in a previous episode, that many times children spend most of their lives and their times outside of the home, i.e. in schools, more than they even spend with their parents. So how crucial is it for a child to have adab with their teachers, and also teachers to have adab with a child in terms of their tarbiyah that they are giving to them as well?
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, alhamdulillah, wa salatu wa salamu ala rasulillahi wa alihi wa sahbihi wa man ihtada bihudahu amma ba'd. The tarbiyah, the way that our parents dealt with us decades ago, differ to modern parents of today. The concepts, the ideas, the methodology, among other things, are way different. This is due to culture, to the environment, to the sciences, etc. Now, in my time, like 40, 50 years ago, my father would take me to the headmaster of the school, to the teachers, and say, which is well known to Arabs worldwide, old generations, they would say, "Here is my child. Take him as meat and return him as bone." Meaning that you have full, free right to do whatever you want. Beat the heck out of him, torture him, discipline him. I trust you as a teacher, and I know that the outcome would be great. Nowadays, it's different. Nowadays, you can't even do or say anything that is negative. You'll be incarcerated, you'll be tried and convicted, you'll be fired from your job, which resulted in the children losing respect to their teachers. Now, I don't say that the previous generation's way of upbringing and teaching is good by hitting and beating with a stick. I don't say that this is good, but I don't say it's bad. There has to be some room of moderation. To me, Allah has favored me, and I taught in the beginning of my life for 15 years in a public high school. And they're all teenagers, hot-blooded, too much testosterone, flying all over the place. And I taught in that environment. With the grace of Allah, I had never, ever laid a hand on a student, nor cursed or said to a student, excuse me, or said to a student, "You're stupid, you are a dog, you are a monkey," whatever. Nothing, alhamdulillah, because this is how we were brought up, and this is how our religion dictates that we deal with others. So the way I was dealing with children, well, with boys, young men, was through respect. And I know a lot of teachers who always had a stick in their hands and would beat the children, but I am 100% certain that they respected me more than them. Until date, they called me on the phone, and this was more than 25, 30 years ago. Till date, they're grown-up men with children, with families, and they seek my counsel they respect me, and they cherish the days I spent with them. Why is that? Because a teacher is the second after the parents as a role model. And whatever he says or does has a marvelous or devastating impact on the child. And we mentioned last, some episode ago, that the comment of Ishaq ibn Rahoya and how it affected Imam Bukhari. So many scholars, when they were at a young age, heard a comment from a scholar who was senior saying that this guy has a bright future. This boy, when he grows up, he's going to be an imam. This boy is something of a great personality. And it all came true. They didn't predict the future, but rather they gave positive signs and comments because they know that it would produce excellent and beautiful traces. So, as a teacher, you have to be 100% careful of everything that comes out of your mouth. A comment that you are making a joke can devastate his life for the rest of it. And a positive comment or encouragement can uplift the morals of the child to be a great scholar in the future. So there is a great responsibility laid upon the teachers, the scholars as well. As a scholar, people learn not only from your knowledge, but also from the way you act. Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal, it was stated that 5,000 students attended his classes and gatherings. 5,000. 500 of them used to write the hadith down. So they are proper scholars and students of knowledge, recording everything he says. 4,500 of the other students would only be there to learn from the Imam's moral conduct, the way he speaks, the way he acts, the way he reacts to some of his students. So they learn from his akhlaq. So show me scholars of today and how they deal with others. You would be shocked to find some of the scholars using abusive words, looking down at others, making fun of them. And they say, this is jarh wa ta'dil. This is okay, we're speaking about the men. This is the knowledge of the al-jarh. But this is not the way of the Prophet ﷺ, not the way of the companions, not the way of the real people of the Salaf. It's a package deal that you have to take, and these guys only select what benefits them. Some of those so-called students of knowledge, they have websites. They publish books on what? On criticizing this da'i or this scholar or this student of knowledge, and they tarnish everybody's reputation. So who's left? 4 or 5 allama. These are the top scholars. If you follow them, you are with us. If you're not, then you're against us. And this is not Islam.
Yeah, subhanAllah. You mentioned Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal. I'm made to remember even Abu Hanifa, may Allah be pleased with him. It was known that his top student was Abu Yusuf. And what he did from a very young age, he recognized some beautiful characteristics in Abu Yusuf, that he would be very, a promising young person. So he took him from his mother, and his mother, because they said he was speaking like full sentences before the age of 1.
SubhanAllah.
SubhanAllah. So they knew that he was going to be something special. So when Abu Hanifa took him close, his mother was worried, like, I was hoping my son was going to be a doctor or a scientist or something great. Now he's going to be an alim,
as if this is the worst of the worst.
Yeah. So he said, don't worry, your son is going to be something big. So to please her and to make her happy, Abu Yusuf said that Abu Hanifa paid for his expenses, cover his family throughout his entire life.
MashaAllah.
And he would clothe all of his students, and he would give them spending money so people won't look down at the students. And Abu Yusuf became who he was because of the tarbiyah of Abu Hanifa. You will be hard pressed to find, scholarship now that gives people tarbiyah, not just give them knowledge, but gives them the application of it, how to be, and in their own characteristics, teach them how to apply this knowledge that I'm teaching you. So how crucial is that for our teachers?
It is very crucial because knowledge can be sought after anywhere.
Yes.
You can get knowledge from books, from the internet, from sheikhs, from da'is, from your self-reading. You can get knowledge, but tarbiyah, akhlaq, moral conduct, ethics, you cannot get that except from a scholar. He teaches it to you. He monitors you. He fine-tunes you. And I remember some of my old sheikhs, whenever I said something, they would give me a lecture. I joke a lot. Maybe people don't know this, but this is who I am. I'm not going to change my colors just because I am a sheikh. No, I joke. Okay, guilty as charged. But sometimes my jokes go a little bit too far. There was always this sheikh who would diplomatically correct me and lectures me about the dangers of what I had said. And Jazahullah khair, till date, I still recall his advice. So what the sheikh says is very important. Now this is one aspect of adab. There's another aspect where we teach our children how to deal with their teachers. So again, it's a sign of disrespect when we find a child treating the elders, especially the teachers and the scholars, in an inappropriate way. This is a sign that we failed in upbringing him. We should always teach our children from an early age how to respect the elders, how to respect that whoever teaches me a letter, I'm his slave forever. How to teach them to respect the imams of the masjid and to greet them and to pay our respects to them. If we manage to do this, then we have this beautiful amount of respect. In the Far East, we find the relationship between the younger generation and the elders filled with respect, unlike in the West. So in the West, you could find a son talking horribly to his father, let alone his grandfather or the elders. In the Far East, this is sacred. The way they deal their parents, the way they deal with the elders, the respect they have. We in Islam have this in our religion with the grace of Allah.
Yeah, Jazakallah khair, Sheikh. We're going to pause here for a short break, and we'll come back with talking about having adab with the teachers, not only the ulama, but also the neighbors, inshallah ta'ala. So viewers, stay tuned. We'll be right back with our second segment of Life's Adornments. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Assalamu alaikum and welcome back to our second segment of Life's Adornments, where we're discussing adab, having good akhlaq. And so far we discussed having good akhlaq with the teachers and ulama, and I just wanted to make a crucial point about that Sheikh Assim mentioned about children having respect for the ulama, particularly the people that disseminate Islamic information. I see in many situations children don't really respect the imams, and it's greatly in part because of how the community treats the imams as a wazif, as a position. Some people treat it as if it's a lowly position, like, oh, he's just the imam. And one of the brothers who came from the West, he said that when he was a non-Muslim, he would see the drug dealers, and they had these big flashy cars, and they had money, and they had women, or whether these things, dunyawi things that were pleasing. And he would say, don't be like me, you know, this is a bad position to be in. And then they would see the imams, and they were like, Miskeen, may Allah help us. You know, they didn't really have anything, and they were treated as like a closet. Imam had a little closet in the masjid, and people would tell him, say, do Jummah, do this, don't say this in your lecture. And they treated him like not so nicely. So he said he would go to the masjid with his Muslim friends, and they would see the imam say, you should be like me. And he would wait in between the two and say, I think I'll go with the drug dealer.
With the Ferraris.
With the Ferrari.
Yeah. See, this is problematic. And we have to cross the T's and dot the I's in the sense that it is a cultural thing. You give respect, you get respect. In a lot of the masjids in America, I've seen that the committee of the masjid, the board members, they are not practicing, they are cultural based, and probably they are rich people who donated for the masjid and they won a seat in the board or the committee. So they get this imam who's a hafiz of the Quran, who's a respected person, and they start to dictate, do this and do that. Akhi, it's not your job. Your job is to ensure that I come on time, that the prayers are given, that the khutbah do not cross the line, my teachings are okay. You don't tell me how to do my job. And usually there's a clash. If the imam gives in, they'll ride him like a mule. And this is not a good masjid. If the imam had respect to himself, he said, I'd never tolerate something like that. Such people who do not know the basics of Islam coming to tell me how to teach, this is unacceptable. In other masjids, and I've unfortunately also personally was involved in this, some of the imams are not worthy of being imams. Mm-hmm. And I've seen heinous things happening from so-called imam that would breach anyone's confidence, not only in their role as an imam, in their role as a Muslim. Mm-hmm. When they transgress, when they abuse, when they misuse their powers and the trust of people to steal their money or even to have illicit, haram relationship with women. Imagine imam of a masjid. And of course, alhamdulillah, it's not widely spread. It's a case or two. But again, we hear about the Catholic popes and cardinals, what they do in child abuse cases. And we're outraged. To find something similar, even on a small scale compared among the Muslims, is outrageous. Yes. So this is found, and this is what may cause people to disrespect imams in that region. But if you come to Arabia, for example, where I come from, the children are taught from an early age to respect the imam, and that the imam is an authority. The father, the grandfather respect the imam. They invite him to their homes to feast with them. They seek his counseling. They ask him for fatwas. And usually, 99.99%, the imam is trustworthy in his position. Because the vast majority of imams in Arabia, they're not assuming a position paid for. Usually the vast majority of them are volunteers. So they don't charge money. They have other jobs, they have businesses, they have whatever. But it's not an occupation that they accept people to instruct them to do or not to do. So they are quite respected. In other Arab countries, I know for certain that the media is trying to portray the imam, the scholar, to be a lunatic. So in so many films, in so many dramas or TV series, the scholar is usually someone who has a long beard like mine, wearing a turban, and he is so hyper, he's dumb, he doesn't speak any languages other than the Arabic, and he is so greedy, trying to milk you for money, and he would polish your shoes for a dime. So when you see as a child the scholars and the imams and the judges looking ridiculous like this, in some TV series, they show that the imam, the judge, would divorce a man from his wife so that the judge would marry her. Oh. So what are you doing? This is the media. This is the role of media, brainwashing. The society in large would probably think negatively of anyone who has a beard, of anyone who's a scholar or an imam or a judge or a da'i, and this would negatively impact the whole community. So yes, what you have said is true, but not always. There is this idea that people are trying to propagate to the world, that scholars and judges and imams are, scum. They are uneducated, they're barbaric, they don't know how to talk or to act, and try to get their children away from them and put them in medical schools and engineering schools, as this is for the elite. But the scum go to lead prayers and to become scholars. A'udhu billah.
Yeah, may Allah protect us from this.
Ameen.
Moving forward, I want to talk about neighbors. We know the Prophet ﷺ, one thing he did not play about was mistreating and disrespecting their neighbors under any circumstances. So in the neighborhoods that we grow up in, how do you teach your children to be conscious of their neighbors and to have respect for them as well? Here, at least what I've seen here, many, which is strange to me, because in the West, everybody knew each other. We all grew up in a block. So if you did something down the street, before you got home, the news would reach to your parents, and even your neighbors would beat you before you got home growing up. That's how it was. But now I see here that nobody really knows each other. People don't really talk to each other. Maybe it's because it's the city and it's different in the village, but how important is it for you to know your neighbors, respect them, to be at their service, to check on them when they're sick, and to live your life in this way?
This is true. When I grew up, we used to know each and every neighbor of ours. I remember that one of my daily chores was to hold a tray with food on it, and mom says, give this to our neighbor, Fatima, Zuhur, this, that, and tell them this is from my mom. So every single afternoon I go and knock on the door, auntie, this is from my mom. She says she liked you to taste this. So it's a generous plate of food. And then she gives me in return another tray to give it to my mom with food. So after my mom uses the food, the plates of my neighbor has to be filled in again. So she fills it up with new food, and I've been doing this for all of my life. What is this? So I go from house to house, and it shows you that we know each other. Yeah. Nowadays, with expanding metropolitans and cosmopolitans and concrete blocks that we live in, high-risers, you rarely know who's next door. If someone knocks on your door, you tell your kids, turn off the lights. And you look from
the people.
Yeah, and so that he would not know that there is someone inside. Said, what is he? What does he want? Yeah. And even if you open the door, you're a little bit doubtful. Assalamu alaikum. Wa alaikum salam. Yes, what can I do for you? You want money? I don't have any. Akhi, just giving you salam. Yeah, for what? So it's too aggressive, not friendly. This is happening. In Islam, it's not this way. The Prophet said, alayhi salam, Wallahi la yu'min, Wallahi la yu'min, Wallahi la yu'min. 3 times he swears, by Allah he does not believe. The companion said, who is he? He said, whoever is not safe from his neighbor's atrocities or shortcomings. So if I am not safe from my neighbors throwing the garbage in front of my house or blowing the music in the middle of the night, he will not be a believer, a full-fledged believer. Yes, he's a Muslim, but with weak iman. And the Prophet said, alayhi salam, that Jibreel, peace be upon him, continued to advise me and to remind me of the rights of the neighbor until I thought, okay, Jibreel, he's going to inherit me? What is this? He's reminding me so frequently and often that I thought, okay, he's going to have a share of my wealth after I die. And in Islam, it tells us to respect our neighbors. But it also part of the Islamic tradition that the neighbors take care of the children of their neighbors as if they're their own. So if you see my child doing something wrong, you reprimand my child. and you may even hit my child, and I would thank you for that, because I know that if I had seen your child do something similar, I would do the same, and you would thank me for that. So in such a community, yes, we have this strong bond within the neighborhood itself, not only because you watch my back and I'll watch yours, but because this is an Islamic concept that neighbors look after one another. One of the most beautiful things we had till recently, whenever a woman gave birth in the community, every single house in the neighborhood would dedicate a meal for that day to give to the family, so that she would not have to cook when she is tired and still not fit. This shows you how close we are to one another, and if our children watch us behave in such a fashion, they will be, inshallah, good soldiers for this community.
Yeah, alhamdulillah, as the famous statement says, it takes a village to raise a child.
Sure.
So, jazakallah khair, Sheikh. We're going to end the segment here, inshallah.
Barakallahu feek.
Always a pleasure to sit with you and exchange these dialogues.
Jazakallah khair.
For the viewers, we hope that you are benefiting, and stay tuned for another episode of Life's Adornments. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.